Hey guys, welcome back to RBB. In this episode of the Get Home series, I wanted to focus on things that you could keep in your car, and even if you don't have tinted windows and you're very meticulous about not leaving valuables in the car, that you're afraid somebody might smash the window and steal your stuff, this stuff is so innocuous and so mundane that you could literally hide it in plain sight, and people probably wouldn't. They'd look inside the car and wouldn't even give it a second thought. But they're very valuable, or can be valuable, if you do have to get home. So let's get into this. The first piece of gear that I want to talk about is actually something I bought many years ago on a lark. I bought this entrenching tool. I never took it seriously when I bought it. I thought it was going to end up on the wall in my someday man cave. And so a few years later, when I was taking my kids camping, I decided to throw this in the car with me, and believe it or not, this thing ended up being very useful. Not necessarily just as a shovel, because it really doesn't make that great of a shovel. However, it also, if you sharpen the edges, this thing can pretty much do anything a small machete will do. So it became very useful, and as you've noticed, if you haven't noticed yet, I've used this quite a bit. Give you a quick war story. Many years ago, probably about 7 or 8 years ago, there was a snowstorm here, which was, for us, a snowstorm is like 2.5 feet. I know that somebody from the upper Midwest would probably listen to that and go, oh, that's just a light dusting. And for us, it was a big deal. When we get 2.5 feet, 3 feet of snow on the ground, everything shuts down. First responders aren't able to move very well. Tow companies, the tow trucks, aren't able to move very well. And so I came up on an accident where somebody had actually rolled backwards, slid down a hill, and crashed into a barbed wire fence. And in fact, they were high centered on the snow, and the barbed wire fencing was stuck underneath the car. So believe it or not, I actually used this to dig out the snow and was able to get to the barbed wire fence, where I was able to use a pair of bolt cutters to cut the barbed wire fencing and get that out from underneath the car so that the car could be moved. The tow company said, look, we're not coming. We'll see you in 3 or 4 days. Sitting in a vehicle, this thing really isn't going to draw a lot of attention, especially if you can stuff it halfway under a seat where only like that much of the wood is sticking out. It's really not going to draw attention to anything. You'll notice that it has some deck tape on here. I added that on my own just to kind of give it a little more purchase. But yeah, it's been a useful tool for me. And if I was going over uneven ground and I thought I may have to be there overnight, and for whatever reason I figure I may have to dig a small hole or cut some kindling for firewood or something in a really crazy scenario, yeah, I'd take this with me in a heartbeat. The next thing that I would bring up is, and you saw me use this in a different scenario, is I'm a big believer in analog backups. I know we're in a time when electronics are pretty reliable, but if your luck is half as bad as mine is, you could find yourself in a scenario where those electronics are not serving you very well, and it is always good to have a road atlas that is reasonably up to date. I paid full price for these. I have one for the 3-state area that I live in and the states that surround me, and I'm a big believer in the DeLormes. They're very user-friendly. If you've never seen these before, basically on the back are the corresponding pages for each of the different sections on each page. And I have found this very useful, not just for main roads, but it's also useful for like fire trails and other ways of getting around and circumventing and circumnavigating. And it's been very useful for me. Even if you don't really travel outside of your own state very much, I believe that it's important to have other routes to get home just in case. But that's just my thought process. But again, this is something that could probably be sitting stuffed in between your seats, or stuffed in that little magazine holder in back of the front passenger seat, and nobody would even notice it because it looks like a book. But that's one consideration, is to just have the ability to know where you're at and where you need to go with a certain level of precision. The next item that I think is important, again, that would sit in the car and not really draw a lot of attention if it was sitting out where somebody might see it, is gaffer's tape. Gaffer's tape is very much like duct tape. However, it has more of a cloth texture to the outside, and the adhesive on the other side is less sticky. It doesn't leave a residue once you pull it up. Gaffer's tape was designed to be used in the movie industry when the lighting people and the folks who were dealing with cords had to tape things to the ground. They didn't necessarily own all of the places that they were taping, so that when they got done in that scene or in that area, they could just pull the tape up and there wouldn't be any nasty residue. I found gaffer's tape to work just as well as duct tape. However, if you have to wrap it around something where you need a grip, I believe that gaffer's tape is superior to duct tape. So that's why I keep some of this in my car. So as far as taking this whole roll and throwing it into my pack, I probably wouldn't do that. But you can actually pull a big strip of it and wrap it around something else like a flashlight or a water bottle, so that you would have that capability of being able to use tape if you needed it. So gaffer's tape. The next items that I want to talk about, I've already discussed in a different episode, but I think they deserve to be re-emphasized, and that is a additional pair of work boots. Again, these are something that you can keep in your car, and they don't necessarily have to be hidden from view. People would look at these things, especially the top of them, if they're looking inside your car trying to find valuables, and they go, oh, it's just an ugly old pair of boots. But the reality of these boots is I've had them for about 15 or 20 years, and even though the tops of them look pretty nasty, I've had them resoled because they are stitched down construction on the soles. So the soles are brand new or virtually brand new, but the actual top of them look like they've been beat to hell and back, which is exactly what I want people to see when they look inside my car for valuables, is that there's nothing of value there to them. But these boots are well worked in. They fit my feet really well, and if I did have to go over uneven ground, these things would be worth their weight in gold. Now you will notice that inside each of the boot is a pair of socks. If you are going to be on your feet and you're going to be traveling, especially multi-miles and multi-days, you probably want more than one set of socks or one pair of socks, and you want to make sure that those socks, ding, 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 fit your feet in the footwear that you have them in. So having the correct type of socks with the correct thickness to be able to fit into your shoes is also a really wise idea. So I keep a pair of socks in each of the boots so that not only they'll fit my feet with these boots, but also I can change them out if I need to because they get wet, or I've been on them so long that they need to be pulled out and aired out, and I need a new pair of socks to fit into the boots to keep going. And the last thing I want to offer for your consideration, it may not necessarily fit the environment that you find yourself in, but I think it's valuable, is to have some sort of a dry bag that you can put things in if the weather starts to get really nasty, or if it looks like you may have to traverse some sort of a water feature like a river or cross a stream or something like that. Being able to throw some of your stuff in that you absolutely positively want to keep dry can be really crucial. Now this is a 20 liter by Pelican. Again, I paid for it myself. I've used these before. They work pretty well. Unless you are going to try to like float down the river, then you might get a little bit of water seepage in them, but for the most part, these things work really well. So guys, these are some of the things that I keep in my car that I don't even feel that I have to hide. Let me know what you think in the comments down below, and we'll catch you right here next time on Ranges, Backstops, and Berms.